So let's talk about this concept of decision fatigue. A lot of builders, a lot of contractors who are working with clients, they unknowingly create decision fatigue. The client is just overwhelmed by all the decisions and selections that have to be made. Maybe they start off all excited, but then at some point they just get overwhelmed and either they shut down, they ghost you, or they just start making decisions to get them off their plate. Do you have any advice on how to avoid decision fatigue if you're going into a project like that where you have to make a lot of selections and decisions? Any advice on how to prevent decision fatigue? And Noelle, I'll start with you.
So I think just helping people hone into what their individual style is, because it can be so overwhelming. You go on Pinterest or you scroll Instagram, there's so many ideas out there and they're all beautiful. They're all amazing, but there are also so many different styles and so many different, architectures, but really leaning into what their individual style is and what kind of environment they're trying to create for themselves and honing on that versus looking at all this inspiration and all these ideas. What are you trying to create? So for me personally, I love, like he was saying, older things, like an old general store was kind of the theme for my kitchen and my pantry, leaning into all that is old. So helping them really define their own style instead of just focusing on, which tile, which paint, which this, which that, focusing instead on what is your style, what are we creating here? And then when it does come up to these tough decisions, leaning back into that answer versus looking at all the different options out there.
Yeah, good advice. Good advice. Daniel, how about you? Any advice on how to prevent decision fatigue?
I think bringing in a third party is always a good idea. If you get to a certain point and you're just overwhelmed, bring in a designer and have that designer just give maybe a little nudge in the right direction. Maybe you only need them for a couple of hours. Maybe you want to continue to use them throughout the rest of your build or your rehab. But the third party perspective is invaluable, especially when your brain is so clouded. You don't know, again, you're trying to stick with a theme, like Noelle said. And if you completely choose architecture or even if you're picking out tile or if you're picking out colors, if you completely choose a style that goes away from where you were trying to originally go, it's like it almost seems like it could be like a hodgepodge of designs, and it confuses people as they walk in, or what is the overall theme of this structure. So bring in that designer. It'll help you have a clear vision, and maybe you just need them for, oh, wow, you know what? That's exactly what I was thinking, but I just couldn't put it on paper. And it gives you that nudge to go in the right direction.
Yeah, that is fantastic advice.
In their choices. Instead of just sitting there go pick tile, you have the whole wide world to choose from, every tile that exists in the whole world. Instead, maybe give them 3 to 5 choices that are different colors, different styles, and let them just focus on that little decision instead of just feeling overwhelmed by everything that's in the world.
Yeah, that's great advice. There's the paradox of choice. Some people would think, well, it's better to have, if I give my clients infinite choices, that's better, right? No, that actually creates more stress. Give them a catalog with 1,000 cabinet door pulls and hinges. Wow, that's going to cause decision fatigue pretty quickly. Yeah. And I really like that idea about bringing a third party in, because one thing I've noticed on the projects I worked on was as soon as the first coat of paint went up, and if a client walked through the space, they start questioning it. Like, oh, wow, that doesn't look right. Of course, they're looking at it without everything else in place. So then they have a tendency to start changing things. And it's really helpful to have an architect or a designer to say, this is good. It's okay. Don't start making changes. I've seen that mistake. And that's a great way to end up with a hodgepodge. Definitely. Yeah. Good advice.